third degree at the Pretoria Magistrates Court, where courtroom C has been the scene of high drama during Oscar Pistorius' bail hearing. He has, of course, as you know, been charged with the murder of Reeva Steenkamp. Behind me, the world's media, because this is a Shakespearean tragedy in every sense of the word, a national icon, now a fallen hero. Oscar Pistorius, a hero for our time. South Africa's golden boy. The world was his oyster.
I hope there's still a lot more to come. I'm 25 sprinters, usually peak between 27 and 29. So hopefully I've got another couple of years ahead of me.
Everybody else was saying South Africa, land of Nelson Mandela. They say, oh, South Africa, Oscar Pistorius. That was the case with the Olympics. That was the case with the Paralympics. The power of sport and our athletes, brand ambassadors of our country.
A man who could do no wrong. So when news first broke that Oscar had shot and killed his girlfriend, South Africans simply could not believe it. Our hope and inspiration reduced to this. The first version of events was that this was a hideous accident, that Oscar Pistorius had mistaken his girlfriend for a burglar. The public readily accepted this because, after all, this is entirely possible in crime-ridden South Africa. But the police were quick to distance themselves from this version.
We're not sure where this report came from. It definitely didn't come from the South African Police Service.
A media frenzy erupted. Slowly, pieces of this puzzle started emerging. This is what we know. On the night of the 13th of February, Oscar's girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, arrived at his upmarket Pretoria estate. She was captured on security cameras. They spent the evening at home. Crucially, Oscar removed his prosthetic legs. So exactly what went down here at Oscar Pistorius' luxury Pretoria house in the early hours of Valentine's morning? We know from court affidavits that neighbours report hearing raised voices in those early hours. Then we also know 4 shots were fired. Crucially, what is not in dispute is that it was Oscar Pistorius who fired those shots through the bathroom door, killing his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp. The court will have to decide, however, whether this was premeditated murder or a terrible accident in which Oscar mistook his girlfriend for a burglar. Police arrived shortly after. Oscar was arrested and charged with a Schedule 6 crime, premeditated murder. The next day, he applied for bail, spent the weekend behind bars. Throughout his court hearing, Oscar sobbed uncontrollably, as perhaps the enormity and horror of what happened sank in. In a state of shock, Oscar's family offered the Steenkamps their sympathies.
We have been in contact with the Steenkamp family and we've sent our condolences, but we also respect their privacy. And we must also give them time to work through this tragic moment.
Reeva's family were in terrible pain. Her uncle, the chosen spokesperson, initially a calm voice in the unfolding chaos.
I can't see the family getting over this shortly. It's going to be a long term reconciliation with a lot of things and issues.
But on the day of Reeva's funeral, it all became too much even for him.
But we are here today as a family. And it's only one thing missing, it's Reeva. We've got together, but we've missed one. And I think I will get over it with the Lord's prayer.
She was remembered in a private ceremony in her hometown of Port Elizabeth. It was easy to see that Reeva was a beautiful young woman on the cusp of stardom. A highly sought-after model who had just starred in a reality show broadcast for the first time last week.
My name is Reeva and I'm a model and we're in Jamaica this year. Be jealous, you can be jealous.
She just had that energy and she just had that love in her that you couldn't help but be swept away with it.
She loved people, she loved everybody, and it was her heart that went out.
The day before Valentine's Day, her tweets were all moonlight and roses. The two seemed to be South Africa's new star couple. Oscar was, after all, not only a national hero, but an international icon.
I don't think people in South Africa really understand how big a star he is internationally. I think, South Africans venerate him, they see him as a star, as an icon and something to look up to. But he was literally mobbed in London. He goes and competes in Europe and other places. He's a superstar. People will mob him and will want autographs.
He took 2 golds and 1 silver at the Paralympics and achieved an astonishing world's first at the Olympic Games.
In London now last year when he became the first double amputee to ever compete in Olympic Games. When he stood on the tarmac in the 400 meters in the heat, he got as big a standing ovation and cheer from 80,000 people that Usain Bolt got.
A golden future lay ahead of him until those 4 shots were fired on that bloody Valentine's Day. To the nation, Oscar Pistorius was a symbol of hope and strength. But as he was taken into custody, he hid his face.
It's a little bit back, people.
And the face that started to emerge was a new one South Africans didn't know. We'd seen flashes of it before, but took no notice. So desperate were we for a hero to inspire us. But was it that dark side that came to the fore in the early hours of Valentine's Day? When we look back now, were there things that we missed? There was that boating accident in 2009 where Pistorius was injured in a crash at the Vaal. A significant amount of alcohol was found on the scene at the time. No charges were laid. As Third Degree delved deeper into his past, we found more than one witness to previous outbursts of anger. And every time, there were absolutely no consequences. In 2009, he was involved in an incident with a young woman, Cassidy Taylor Memory. This is Oscar's version of events.
We had a braai at my house. It was actually my housemate's 21st, and he had about 10 or 15 people over. And I was sitting next to a friend of mine having a chat, and one of the girls that was there had obviously drank too much, and she got into a fight with someone. So I stood up and I tried to diffuse the situation. It didn't work, so I asked her to take her stuff and leave. And she left her handbag or something after she'd already left the house, and the door was closed, so she tried to kind of open it by kicking it, and it splintered. And a panel fell out from the top of the door. It was a kind of an outside door with trusses on it, and it fell on the ground and toppled over and hit her on the leg. And I told her to get off the property, and I was actually on the way to the police station to just open a report, and they'd already arrived at my house. So it was a bit of a mass confusion, and it ended up just turning completely sour. And the next morning, I had to spend the night in jail, which I never ever thought I would have to do, which was quite hectic.
She laid charges of assault. Ironically, the case was supposed to be heard last week, but both parties agreed to postpone it long before the killing. We also heard many rumors of angry outbursts, and there were allegations of a bar brawl in KwaZulu-Natal. But it was at the 2012 Paralympics that the world first got to see that temper. a different side to the Blade Runner. He erupted after coming second in the 2,000-meter race to Alan Oliveira.
I think he was shocked, like the rest of the world was. And his comments then were quite interesting. He turned around and blamed the blades. And a lot of people would turn around and said, sad loser. Even some people even said spoiled brat, give Alan Oliveira his due. And he actually lost quite a number of, let's call it, brownie points with the UK media, who absolutely adore him.
But there are others who talk about Oscar Pistorius' temper and altercations, frequently over women. One such incident occurred at the Kyalami racetrack last year when Oscar Pistorius allegedly threatened millionaire and TV star Quinton van den Berg, who was dating Oscar's ex-girlfriend at the time. Van den Berg refused to be interviewed but did confirm that the incident took place. We spoke to former soccer player Mark Batchelor, who was caught up in a series of verbal outbursts.
Oscar went off with him, told him he's going to break his legs, his effing legs, and F him up, and he called him bad words. I mean, it was documented. No, I can't repeat it on camera, no. And so Quinton opened up a charge. Even when he walked out, he still turned around and said, I'm not finished, and you must better watch where you go because I'm going to break your effing legs. And Quinton was shaken up.
Batchelor claims Oscar believed his ex still belonged to him.
Oscar, was obviously upset about something that we shouldn't have been upset about. It's his ex, and it's not, you don't own any. And that's what I think in South Africa, a lot of people think they own their exes. Nobody owns their exes. He said to him, you're not a man, you're a coward. While I'm running for my country, is what you're doing.
Batchelor spread the word, don't mess with my friend, and that's when Oscar allegedly started threatening him.
Oscar was at a bar at the Vaal River, and a mutual friend of ours that went to school with him to Pretoria Boys High was there. And they were at they were at a friend's party down the river, and he was going off, said to him, Mark Batchelor, and he said, yeah, Batchelor, a good friend of mine. And Oscar then started going, hey, well, you tell Batchelor I'm not scared of him, and if he wants a problem, I've got a problem, and I'll sort him out. But obviously using the F word, and then he's going to break my legs, and he's going to F me up, and he's going to do this to me.
Later, they exchanged verbal insults.
Oscar phoned me, and he started off, hey, boy, what's your problem? What's your effing problem with this? So we had words on the phone, but
you said, like, I'm not your boy.
Yeah, I said, I'm not your boy, and I said, you spoke to Quinton badly. You said, I said, and I also was swearing back at him.
Batchelor paints a disturbing picture of a man with an explosive temper. He's already given a statement to the investigators. Oscar, along with other sports stars, saw themselves as some kind of celebrity club, wealthy, famous, surrounded by beautiful women.
They started calling themselves the celeb club, and we all laugh at it now, but you sometimes put yourself into a position where you start believing all that stuff and that fakeness, and I believe it's a lot of fakeness. And I think Oscar got into that status where he just thought every woman wanted him, every business wanted to do business with him. He started believing that. He just, I really believe he could get away with this.
Criminal profiler Laurie Peterser believes the Olympic incident should have sent off warning bells to family and sponsors alike.
We make excuses for the people that we put on pedestals, and it's not necessarily in those people's best interests. I mean, just to go back to 2012, had any one of these sponsors said, Mr. Pistorius, your actions were a disgrace to yourself, to our brand, to society in general, we insist that in order to continue your sponsorship, we insist that you go for anger management counseling.
Many top athletes have a big dose of what psychologists call narcissism. It's characterized by a superior sense of self and an exaggerated sense of personal power.
You need to believe you're invincible in a lot of these cases to actually reach your pinnacle, to push yourself that step further than you or I would push ourselves as normal people. They have to have it.
Unchecked, it can become dangerous.
They are adored by the press. They can do no wrong. It builds a narcissistic type personality in them, because when there's no consequences for anything that you do as well, you learn that you can get away with it, unfortunately.
But Oscar's family denies he has a dark side.
Those allegations doesn't come as a shock because they're allegations. They're just not true. I mean, that is it. He's not a violent person. He's a peacemaker. He's always been a peacemaker. And that's his nature. He looked tough and he looked like the superstar and hold himself in public domain. But he's actually a very, very kind, soft person.
The twists and turns in this case could not have been more astounding. From the day the news first broke that Oscar Pistorius had shot and killed his girlfriend, to the fact that the investigating officer was removed from the case because he himself is facing 7 attempted murder charges, and then most recently that Oscar Pistorius' brother Carl is himself facing a charge of culpable homicide. Just as recently as a few weeks ago, Oscar's name was linked to another dramatic incident. I'm here at the Melrose Arch Shopping Centre, a popular Johannesburg venue. Now imagine a loaded gun going off here at peak hour. Well, that's exactly what happened. Oscar Pistorius accidentally fired a friend's loaded weapon, and amazingly, nobody reported this. Was this just another sign of a country so infatuated with its Olympic hero that they were prepared to turn a blind eye to this? Up-and-coming cruiserweight boxer Kevin Larena was there at the time.
Look, obviously I've given all information I need to the National Prosecuting Authority, but it was a genuine mistake from Oscar. Obviously a gun was passed under the table from someone else into Oscar's hands and the gun went off. That itself could have been a tragedy, you know. That bullet could have ricocheted and hit in, the bullet missed my toe by 2 centimeters and it could have ricocheted and hit anyone else. But it was a genuine mistake. Oscar was very apologetic, and yeah, we moved on from that day. No one leaked the story, no one spoke about it, you know. And obviously the story came out, and the truth had to be told. Obviously, because of Oscar's status, his friend did take the rap for him. But shortly after that, Oscar took the rap, and because the restaurant owner found out, and Oscar did say it was him, and it was a complete accident. So just at that moment, Oscar's friend chose to take the rap for him.
Who was that friend?
His friend, I'm not going to give his name. He's asked me not to say his name.
Kevin insists that Oscar's eruptions were just men being men.
You know, Deborah, like I said, we are men, we are guys, you know. Men have testosterone. Any guy, just because of his star status, he's only human. So people go out and have drinks and have a good time. Whether testosterone's flying and tempers are flying, that's normal with regards to anybody, you know. So never ever did it come across that I thought he had demons or bad vibes about him, you know. He was a guy and he had a temper. When we all have tempers, you know, it's how you control it. And never ever with regards to women did I see him have a temper with Reeva. When the times I saw them together, they were very loving.
So what do the experts think? It's well documented that Oscar's legs were amputated when he was very young. And at the age of 15, he suffered another loss, the death of his mother. We spoke to psychologist Clinton van der Walt and asked him what kind of impact these early traumas could have on a person's ability to control their emotions.
Well, it fits it may fit in a very interesting way. Often in these early disruptions in early life, one learns a sense of being able to feel safe and feel comfortable in relationships. And if there is a disruption in this early period, a person is left with a sense of feeling profoundly unsafe and out of control in relationships. And of course, this produces a lot of very powerful feelings. And again, if these feelings can't be thought about and can't be processed at a rational level, it can lead to destructive acting out.
Van der Walt also talks of narcissism, where a person has an overflated sense of themselves.
One of the things that we can see, particularly in certain kinds of personalities, is that there's often a development of a superior sense of self or a grandiose, omnipotent sense of self in order to protect from the vulnerabilities of not feeling okay in the world or feeling out of control in the world.
And feeling out of control can produce parallel feelings of rage and anger.
So narcissistic rage emerges because the self is threatened. So when there is an external threat or an internal threat that may come from a feeling of any kind of feeling, the self feels like it is going to unravel, right? That you are literally going to come undone in response to the stress of what you may be experiencing internally or externally. And defensively, what emerges at that stage is a huge amount of rage, right? The rage to protect the self. And if that rage cannot be thought about and cannot be processed rationally, that rage will get expressed through destructive action.
And in our modern culture, we revere our sporting heroes, putting them on pedestals, often to their own detriment.
Culturally, people are very reluctant to dismantle their heroes because people in a society, particularly in a society like ours, are looking for powerful people, are looking for people who are constructive and positive and can make us feel a sense that we can overcome. And I can understand at a sort of a social level that there would be a great reluctance in curtailing or in damaging the image of an individual as powerful as Oscar Pistorius.
The question has to be asked: did Oscar Pistorius have anyone around him to help ground him and channel those feelings of anger? Well, no doubt we'll be revisiting this case over and over again. That's it for this program. But we'd still like to hear from you. If you are interested, you can email us on thirddegree@etv.co.za or fax us on 011 880 8883. There's also Facebook and Twitter. And do join us again for more investigative journalism. Thank you from the entire Third Degree team.